Welcome again, guys. So I hope you spend some times like looking into introduction and tutorials about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And from now on, I will assume that you know at least the basics about how to create an HTML, JavaScript, and CSS application, like create a web application or a website, or create like a very simple application or page using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and I will assume that you know the difference between them by now. So from here we will move forward, and I will start focusing on the ArcGIS APIs for JavaScript. And again, in the last video I showed you how to get to this page. You just go to Google and you search for ArcGIS APIs for JavaScript, and it will open the latest version for you. Of course, you can use any previous versions. You can use the 3x, but we will leave that for later. But right now I want to show you just how to start editing your first application, or create your first application. So what I want you to do is I want you to download something called Visual Studio Code. And Visual Studio Code is a very simple application from Microsoft that will help you write your code for your JavaScript application very easy and quickly and very simple, and it will be in front of you. You don't need it. You don't need this Visual Studio Code. You can actually write your JavaScript code and HTML using like a notepad editor or text editor, but it's good to have like Visual Studio so it can help you write your code in a better way. So after you download Visual Studio Code and you install it, when you go to your Visual Studio Code, this is how it will look like. So what I want you to do from here, I want you to go to File, create a new file, and what I want you to do, instead of typing everything from scratch to create our first GIS application, this is one of the things that I want you to keep in mind all the time, that you don't have to write all the code just to create something. You can find any similar code and just copy it and paste it where you want, and then you start editing this code. So what we will do right now, we will go to the sample code, and the sample code tab, it shows you a lot of samples that is recreated to show you how to use the APIs. So when we go to the sample code, we will just try to find like a very simple sample that we can use right now. So we will look at layers. You can use any of them, but I'm just gonna show you adding a feature layer to the map. Intro to feature layer, and this one will create a map and we'll add a feature layer to it. It's a very simple application. As you see, this is how it looks like. It's just a base map, like a map viewer, and a map inside of it, and there is like the base layer, and there is like a feature layer coming from REST services. In this sample code area, it's really good because you can actually test the code right here. So if you explore it in a sandbox, what that does is it gives you the ability to change the code right here, and it will show you how it affects everything here. So for example, if we simply like just change it this, or like for example, let's change the width of the map viewer to like 50, and we say refresh, you will see that now it's taken 50% of the page. So this is how we change the CSS or the style of this container. Let's put it back again and click refresh. It will go back to normal. So this is one of the things we can change. And if we come here, for example, and change it, the base map from hybrid to streets-vector, and how did I know what value to put here? I will show you that later, but right now I want you to show you the tool that help you create a sample code, or like help you to like change your code here and see how it will look like. This is a really good example so you can play with and change some values and see how it will affect the map. So after we change it, the base map, if I click refresh, it will refresh the base map, the whole map, and it will show me a different base map. So we can change a lot of things here, and it will reflect right here when we click refresh. So what I want to do right now, I don't want to change the code here. What I want is I want you to copy this entire code. So copy all of it, like select all of it, or Control A and then Control C, or right click and say copy, and go to your Visual Studio Code and fit this new file that we created. We will paste our code here. So now we will see that the code colors and the feel of the code and like the preparation for it change it once we save this file as an HTML file. So what we will do right now, we'll go to File, we will go to Save As, and we will find our data location, course data, JavaScript APIs, and I will say simple sample application, and we will save it as HTML. Now after we save it, you will see that the code, the color of the code and everything about the code, it changed to make it easier for you to work on the code. The colors of like what's blue and what's red and what's green, and it doesn't matter, but all what you need to know is what every single thing is. So this is our first application that we have on Visual Studio Code, and also we have it saved on our machine. So if I go to this folder location, so let's go here, refresh, and right click on this one and open with Google Chrome, you will see that we will see the exact same application that we have on the sandbox sample code here, but it's actually coming from our local machine. And this one we can edit it and change it however we want, and this is the one that we can have it as the beginning or the start of our application. So what I want you to know about this one is that you can copy any sample code from Esri sample code right here, like here in the samples. You can copy any code from here and use it in your application, and I will show you step by step how to do that when you try to do something customized, how to copy a specific code and how to find it easily and quickly, and how to use the API reference to find this specific thing that you want to create, and how to customize and edit it on Visual Studio Code to create your application the way you want. Okay, so now we have our first application here. Again, and I assume that you already know what's the difference between HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So as you see here, all these tags here is an HTML tags. Each one of them have a specific meaning, and here we have the style tag, and the style tag is where we put our CSS, and also here we have the script tag, and the script tag is where we put our JavaScript code. Also, I want you to know that there is extra CSS added to this application, but it's referred somewhere else at Esri or ArcGIS servers. So what that means is that Esri created a lot of sample CSS values for their controls, and they added it so your application can access it and use it. So all the JavaScript and the CSS code that is created by Esri are hosted on the servers, and you reference it into your application. So if we copy this URL and we go and open it in the browser, you will see that there's so many things here that have been written out, and all this is hosted at Esri server, and it's just a CSS code or just CSS values for Esri controls. What that means is, like, when you put it as a reference right here, that means like all the code that I just showed you, like all this code here, when your application run, it's like exactly this code been put here. And the reason for that is every control that Esri created, including the map and the layers and everything, are part of Esri APIs, JavaScript APIs, and it have its own customized styles, and it have its own JavaScript code. Same thing for the JavaScript. Any JavaScript you want to add, it will be right here, and we can customize and add our JavaScript code right here. But in the same time, it will not work unless you reference ArcGIS JavaScript APIs right here. So this is the main folder for Esri JavaScript APIs. So if I go here and I open this in a browser, you will see also that there's so many things, and you don't need to know exactly what's going on here at all. But the thing is, I want to show you where your code source and where all the JavaScript code and the API coming from. It's coming from this URL that is referenced inside your application. So that's the beginning here. You have the HTML, you have the head of the HTML page. This code here is a very default code for any HTML page. It have nothing to do with Esri APIs. And this is the title of the page. So here, for example, we can change, say, for my first GIS application, and we like, if you can come here and say save, or you can click Control S. So keep in mind, every time I say save, I will be click Control S and it will be saved automatically. And then you can go back to your page and just refresh it. And when you refresh it, you will see that the title of the page changed. My first GIS application. And that shows you where to change, for example, the page, the title of the page, and what is title used for. So HTML head, the meta is a default things that goes with every HTML page. You don't need to change anything in that. Here you change the title of the page, and here you add the links that will reference the style sheet. The style sheet is the one that is used to add styles, or the CSS as we discussed, and this one that is recreated. And in order for your application to work normally using Esri APIs, you need to have this here, and then also the script you need to reference to which one. If we are using any different JavaScript APIs from Esri, we need to make sure we have the right URL. And you will notice that when we create the JavaScript application using 3.x, or like the 3 version, you will see that we need to change that and make sure that all our code matching the references for this one. Then the style here, we have already existing styles from this sample from Esri, but we can add styles, and I will show you how to add styles into your style and how to add code for your style from here. And then after that we have the script, and the script, this is a very important part here in the beginning of your JavaScript code. So here we are referencing the JavaScript APIs. But in order to use specific controls like the map or the map viewer or the feature layer, you need to know which library to use. And what I mean by that is, if you want to add a map, you need to reference to the map view like source code, or the map source code that exists right here. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I take this code and I go to the browser again as we did, and I paste it here, it's gonna open that. But what if I want to use the map control, like I want to add the map? I need to reference the map control. And when I do that, when I write require and I put like this here, after I have that, what it will happen, it will make sure that this code that exists on Esri servers are part of my code. So this is also a JavaScript code that exists at Esri servers, and it will be part of my code once I reference it here. And the reason I do that, because I cannot have a map without adding this here. I will show you what is the difference between map and map view and feature layer, but what I want you to know is require is very, very important to make your things work properly. And as much as we add things to our application in the coming videos, you will see how much we add to the require before we do anything extra. So if I want to add an editor control, or if I want to add like for example, any like identify or search or any other control, or do a query on a REST service, all what I want to do is to know what is the require, and I will show you exactly where to get that from. But again, the require is to reference the right code for the thing you want to use. And after you put the require here, you need to add a name here that will refer to that, so we can use it in the code. So here we have the Esri map that is connected to this one, so that means the code for the map will be retrieved. So how can I use that inside my code? I need to create a name that's referring to this one, and they go in order. So for example, here we have Esri map, and then Esri map viewer, and then feature layer. Then we have the map, map view, and feature layer. And then these names, or these variables, we will use inside our code to create a new map. As you see here, we create a constant or a new variable called map, and by now I assume you know what constant map means, equal a new map. So here we created a new map, and this map we can change and define it however we want. We can change the initial extent, we can change the base map, we can change so many values inside of it, and I will show you what the things can go inside this map. But for now, I want to go through everything quickly so you know what is this code is about. So here again, we created a new map, and this is a new map control. And here we have the map view. So for the JavaScript APIs 4, and I will say JavaScript APIs 4, and when I refer to 3, I will refer to 3. In 4, that's one of the things that they made different between 3 and 4 is for 4 they create a map view, and the map view is the map control. So let me show you what that means here. Here, all what you see here, something called map view, like this container here is a map view, and inside the map view you add the map. So we created a new map view, and this map view will be inside a container, this container called view dev. How we know we have something called view dev? If we scroll down, we will see that we have inside our HTML tags body, we have a dev, and a dev is a container. By now I assume that you know what that is, and we give it an ID called view dev. So what I'm saying here, I am creating a new map view, and this map view will exist inside this container as a UI, as like user interface thing, and the map inside of this map view will be the map that I created here. So that's the first thing. Like, you cannot have a map without having this, a container for your map that using an HTML tag. You reference the right JavaScript code, you create a new map view, and then you create a new map. And the order here doesn't matter because like you need to create the map before adding it to the map view. So the order does matter sometimes in certain situations, but here you need to create it in this order. So here we have the map view and we added the map to it. This map view will be inside the container that called view dev, and the map inside of this map view will be this map. We can change this anytime, but I want you to just know what that means right now. So what extent means? Extent is creating a new extent for this default map view. So if I change it this values, it will show me the application will start in a different location other than here. So how did they know, or how this sample code that we got created it in this way? Well, you have a feature layer here, and probably the person who created this sample, they know what is the extent, the xmin, the ymin, the xmax, and the ymax for the extent, so they can add their feature layer inside of it and it will become the default view. So what is the extent? The extent is the four corners of every map or every view. So if we look here, we will see that the xmin, or the x value minimum, is the one here at the bottom left. The bottom left is the xmin. That's, so for example, if you want to change any extent, you need to know the x value, like the x or the longitude value in the left corner, left bottom corner, and the y value, which called the y minimum, which is the y value for this one right here. And the y, or the x max and the y max, is the top right corner of your extent. So these two values here represents the lat and long for this corner right here, and these two values represents the bottom left corner here. And this is a spatial reference for this extent, so it matches if it's a lat long or x and y, so it works in the right way and show you the right extent. And I will show you how to change that. I will show you also what other variables and values you can add here inside your map view or map in the next videos. So finishing this one, now we created our map view, we created a map, and we added this map inside the map view, and we said where to start the extent. And till now we can have a functional working map without any of these layers inside of it. Like, you cannot see this as circles inside of it, because this circles comes from a feature layer. So if we open this feature layer on a tab here, and this is just a feature layer or feature server that is hosted at Esri, to show you an example of what a feature layer is and that is hosted. If you don't know what a feature layer is, I suggest you go back to the ArcGIS online section, or make sure you read about it online to know what is the feature layer. And here, going back to the code, what we are doing right now is to add this feature layer to our map. So before we add it to the map, as you see here, we have the map.add, and this called the method, and the method takes a parameter, and this is a parameter, and the add will add layers to your map. here we created a new feature layer. That's why if you go look at the top, you will see that we are referencing the feature layer code, and we call it a feature layer, so we can create a new feature layer. And the feature layer, when you create a new feature layer object, that's called an object, you give it a parameter, and this parameter is the URL that will get this map from the server here and add it to your map and show it on your map. So again, all what this code do is create a map view, set the extent for the map view, create a map inside of it, and add this map or change the base map value for it, and then now you have a map. In order to see this feature layer or this circles, you need to create a new feature layer, add the URL to it, and add it as a parameter for your map. Now the script is done, the script part is done, our head for the HTML tags is done, and here we created the body or the code for our HTML that have the container, and here we have our end for everything in our application. So quickly, what I want to show you what that means again here. What that means is we have all this code that's referencing JavaScript and CSS files, and what happens here is, like, let me get that on the side here. What happens here is when we do this, when we have a map, let's say this is our application, okay? Your HTML tags will define where everything else. So for example, we will have a map here. So this will be the div map, the div, map div, div. And this here we can have a panel here that have controls, so we can call it controls div, and here we will have the map. Inside this container we will add the map view, map view, and inside the map view we will add a map, and inside the map we add, I will call this layers. So here we have the map view. This container is the map view. You can add as many containers. So this one is the map view container, which is this one. You can have another container here that we can add any other controls to it, and we will see that later when we create our custom application. And inside the map view, you added your map view control or object that you created from Esri, and inside of it you defined the extent, and you defined like other things like the spatial reference, and inside the map view you added your map. And now you have a layer you want to add that is a feature layer that exists on the server here. You create a new feature layer and you add it to your map. Now you have a regular map existing on your application, and you can run that very simply from your local machine without any issues, as long as you have internet connection. So if we go back here, this is our application that we will start from. So I hope this video give you an idea of what this code mean by now, and in the next video I will show you how to open ArcGIS API references like this one here. So we can go and see, for example, I will show you right now. Here's the map control, and in the map we define what is the base layer value. So if we go back here, you will see that here we have the map object that we created, and how to know what to use here and which one to use here and which one to, what is the values for this, basically through the reference. And in the next video I'll show you exactly how to do that. So thank you so much so far for here. I hope you get that, and it make things a little bit clearer. I know if you are new to this it might be a little bit complicated, but just stick with me, and hopefully at the end we will know step by step how to create things from scratch. Sometimes I might repeat something that I said, but I'm just trying to make sure that you got it once, twice, and 3 times. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.